So that's also recorded in case you need it. So today, so the plan is to start with this like calculation parts of the of like this economy course, and this is something that will also help you with the homework. So there are two types of examples that we're doing. So today we're doing this calibration. So we have a laboratory where we calibrate the instruments. So we are not doing any analytic like analysis, chemicals, all of that. So this will be our next example when we go like into a chemical analysis, like we have chromatography and all of that. And the reason is because this calibration service is like, it's simpler. We are just calibrating scales or, well, this is meant for like humidity sensors. So this is what we are doing because the setup is a little bit easier and we can go through it like all together today, this one. And the next one, it will get more complex, but we have like discussed the main parts so that it will be a little bit easier. So how this is set up, this file, is that you see there's already a lot of fields so that we don't have to like do everything from scratch. And I rarely think that anybody is really doing from scratch. They always have like some kind of a template. And the different colors here are that these yellow boxes, we will insert like a number inside, some kind of like a data. It's the legend is here also. The green one, we will insert the formula. So it means that we have to do something with the data that's in the yellow. So whoever is using, don't write in this one, download the initial file. I don't know who that was. So the initial file you can update yourself, just download it for you. And then there is this orange. So this is text. We will like figure out what are these fields together. And yes, I think we can discuss. Some of the numbers are filled in, but that's we'll go through them. So there are different components to it. We have like this like overall time, like what are the activities related to this calibration laboratory, some like personnel costs, equipment costs. Then we will discuss what are like some other costs in addition to equipment and people. And some of these should be familiar because remember we discussed this direct and indirect costs and all of that. So there we will figure out these together. And then we will, in the end, do the cost calculation. So, but we'll just start going with this. I'll have this. I think I'll just the reference. I have this example here also that hopefully will keep everything correct. So what is the data? So you here see this box. So this is what we need, like some kind of initial information. And the initial is that per year, we are expected to have about 100 calibrations. I mean, we need to have like some kind of estimate. And the idea is that how much what's the price of this one calibration service? You know, we would like to price it. You know, we want to say what's the price, you know, for the customers. So where do we put this, what it is? So we have to take into account all of these different costs. We can also like make this like presumption that, you know, everything is working. We are not like putting up from zero. We are just we have like this already working laboratory, and we just, you know, want to see what the costs are. So the first table here is what is like the different activities that are done and how much time people spend on it. Because obviously, because we are paying people salaries, so we have to know like how many hours they are spending on keeping up this laboratory and these calibrations. We have here two people. Let's say there's like one specialist who's like doing the calibrations. And then we also have like a supervisor or like a manager, or like we need somebody, you know, who's doing like dealing with the paperwork, you know, dealing with the customers, doing, you know, probably sending the quotes and sending the paper, like the results later on. So specialist is not usually doing that part. So that's why we need to have at least two. And what we know here, so we know that we have, oh, I can't write in, oh, no. Oh, this number one doesn't lock. I think this number one is locked. So we know that we have 100 calibrations. And now what we have to know is that how much time would a one calibration take? Because this is per item. So we have 100 here, so because we need to do the calculation, but we have 100. Obviously, you don't know. I will, with what we have used, it's probably more than a day. It's not one day, so maybe 10 hours. And because working day is 8 hours in Estonia, so it's 40 hours a week. So we will divide it, we will do this, that it's 1.25 days per calibration. And supervisor, no, that's not too much, just let's take 1 hour. So I'll do some of these like introductory parts. So this is what we know per instrument, like per calibration. Now, what are some other activities that the specialist and the supervisor would have to participate when you have like an accredited calibration method? Do you think? What are some of the things you would have to do? Is just only calibrations what you're doing, or some other doings over like, yeah, filling documents, but what documents? The calibration related documents already the supervisor is doing, but what are like some activities when you are an accredited laboratory and you have calibrated things and you have instrumentations to take care of, and what else do you spend your time on? Or do you just go to work every day and just calibrate? What do you think? Exactly, you would have to calibrate your systems that you're calibrating with, obviously. So exactly, so you are doing like I don't know where it's taking that information. It's not in my slide. So you have to like doing some kind of calibrations, and I don't know why it's doing that. Right? Let me see what that works. And maybe let's say you would have to do it twice a year, like maybe once in. So it's like item is twice, and it's actually these hygrometers is why we know some of the data is because Martin Vilbaste has this accredited in the testing center. So we kind of have like an approximate idea of these times also. So that's why I can tell you. And actually the calibration setup is about 12 hours. And for the supervisor, I mean, we could put also 1 day, because there is, usually also like paperwork, and maybe you have to, some things. So, I mean, it just doesn't really matter here what the numbers are exactly. So we have this calibration. What else? What else? Yep.
Supervisor time is 1 day or 1 hour?
1 day?
1 day?
1 day? For like this, yes, for per calibration of the setup. Yeah. What else? There are 3 more. What is one of the other parameters when you want to be accredited? Is there something else you have to do? What? Exactly. You have to participate in interlaboratory comparisons. Exactly. And this is 1 a year is more than enough. And usually this participation is quite time consuming. You might have to like even maybe do a few times. There's also a lot of also like some paperwork. So maybe we'll put some for them. The supervisor is probably like organizing it and like all of that. So, and why for these calibration services, it might be a little bit more, is because usually you are sent like an instrument that you calibrate and then you send it back. So it's like there's a lot more logistics related to calibration than maybe when you just order like a chemical or something. So participation, exactly. And 2 more. What is like one of the main headaches of like people working in laboratories? Is everything working all the time? No. What do you have to spend your time on? Maintenance of your instruments, exactly. I mean, it can be quite some time. So, I mean, even just, if something breaks down, maybe you have to change some parts. Maybe you have to clean it. So, certain things. So, we can probably also maybe like, we can put it like once a year. It's probably like more, but we can just average and just take that. Maybe it's like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days, like a year in total. And I mean, for the supervisor, it also, they might have to like order some parts and, have this there. And the last thing is like some other, when you have accredited laboratory, what has to happen once a year? Yeah, or like accreditation itself. So, but in a way, the accreditation center comes and makes sure. So you have to spend your time on that. So we can put here like the accredit, and maybe we can also add like training and like maybe like all these kinds of like bits and bobs that, and we can put here maybe a little bit more time, and maybe it's also quite some time for the supervisor to really spend that time actually here, to like prepare and organize everything and send papers back and forth, and yes, so audits, accreditation, training, all kind of, we can put that here. So all kind of these things. So now we can get the per year, because we know like the item and we know how much they spend. So how do we calculate this time per year? Yes, items times, like, yeah, the time per item. So then we know in like total. And the same for the It's important to know these hours, and obviously, I mean, it's it makes sense that the specialist has more time because there is this calibration is like the significant part of the everyday job. So these are the activities. So now we go to the salary. So for the salary, I think there's people who are. I'll stop sharing for a minute, and there's an empty screen. Perfect. So how a salary? I maybe you are more aware, but usually as like workers, we oh no, we are in our contracts. We have this gross salary. So this is like usually, it's really gross. So this is like what we have in our contracts. Like this is the number. For us, we never get this on our bank account. So it is usually, we have some taxes that we are paying ourselves for that. And then there is this number that we are getting. So this is like this net salary, or I think it's so. So this is what we, this is what we get in our bank account and what we are. But how this tax is, it's not really straightforward how it's calculated. It's different for different people. It's definitely in different countries, it's different. In Estonia, it depends on your like yearly salary. So if you are getting less, you have to pay like less, like proportionally less taxes from your income. And there's like a certain threshold where you just like pay this maximum amount of tax. But if you are like on the lower income side, then you get more. So like in proportion, your net is more than the tax that you are paying. And it's quite new in Estonia and it's a little bit complex, but in many countries it is so that if you earn more, you pay more taxes also. So this is, but today we don't really care about this because we are a business. So this is not like really our doing, but what we are interested in is how much we have to spend on like in our budget. So the gross salary is yes, what is in the contract, but also the company has to pay also like social, some kind of, and like taxes and like health, like social welfare and like sick, like insurance, like work insurance or whatever, like all these kinds of money that you have to. So this is really your what you are spending that you should have in your budget. So like this gross salary, so you know that when you get when your gross salary is like 2,000, then you know that you cost more to your employer because they have to pay more. And here, now I have to. I think I'll just share my screen, then it's easier for the people online also. So this is the link that I had for you, is that we can use like, I mean, nobody does it like by head. So this is what I usually do when somebody tells me like what my salary is. I come here and I see what I get. So you put in your gross salary. And so here is this tax-free income. And this is like when you are, when you have this like lower salary. I don't know exactly because I am fortunate enough that I have to pay like the maximum tax. So this is really for like, you know, I mean, I work in a university, so that's a good thing. But you see here, so people who have like this benefit, they get 1,283. But if you don't get, so these people get like 80 euros less. But this is calculated from yearly. So it's a bit difficult if we have to take into account for every month. So it's confusing for some people if you're more in some months. But today we don't care because we are only, because you see this cost, total cost for the employer. So this is your wage fund. You see, this one doesn't change. So it's still 2,140 plus 8. So this is how much you have to pay if you want your worker to have a gross salary of 1,600. And then in the end, the worker gets, you see, like 1,000 euros go for the government. This is like how the budget is. So we don't really have to worry, but you see here it is like unemployment insurance that, so both pay a little bit here, the employer and the employee. And then there is this like funded pension, and then income tax. So there's like a social tax. So, you know, where we pay pensions to the people, to the old people. And so there are like a lot of things too. And we also recently had a change. So that's why these years here are important, because you see last year with this, you got 1,300, and this year you get 1,280. So there's a little bit of change, and for those more fortunate people, there's also a little bit of change. So that's why these years are important, because it's changing all the time, you know, not all the time, but they are changing because, you know, times are a bit difficult. So so this is where you can calculate, and this is where you can also for your homework, where you can get the numbers when you're calculating the salaries. So it meant that for the real cost for this specialist was actually 1,000. Was it 4 plus 8? So this is like what you have to spend, even though the gross salary was 1,600. And then the same for the supervisor. If we do here, it's 2,934. I have the number here. I have so 946. Oh, okay. I'm so used to that. So this is the the wrong way. So this is, oh no, sorry, yeah, this is actually, yes, it was the wrong one, indeed. So that was the, yeah, so what we still have to calculate is, we would like to know, because we have this cost here like per day. I mean, and why we are not like paying the whole monthly salaries, because they probably are doing other things also. It's not this only calibration service that they are working. They have like other things they're calibrating, you know, other management. So that's why we should want to know how much like a day costs that we can use. So now the question is, so how many working days in a month do we have? And oh, wait, yes, so we have, oh, can't you? Okay, to this, pack the screen to the Excel file. Okay, let's share then this. Maybe it's better quality. Okay, I think now it's good. Okay. So because you know you're not working 362 days. So we have, so how we can do it? So it's we have about we have 52 weeks, right? So we have 52 weeks. Generally, we have 4 weeks of vacation. I mean, nowadays it's getting more and more popular that you have like this one extra week, that you have 5 weeks of vacation. But officially in Estonia, it's 4 weeks, 28 days. But university, it's like 35. And if you're like a professor, you have like 56. So, but like usual people, yeah, it's, but Ivo never rests. But yeah, so 4 weeks of vacation. And then we also have, you know, we still have holidays. In Estonia, we don't have too many. It seems like every Friday is like holiday in like spring, but actually it's not. And we, you know, we don't have these like boxing days or like when the Mondays are off. We never have that. And for the Easter also, you know, after the Easter Friday, the Monday is mostly off in most countries, and in Estonia it's not. So because we are not like religious country, so we actually have fewer holidays than in most countries. So we can take maybe just like 1 week off, and then we can divide it by 12. Wait, no, I did something wrong. Did I do wrong? I think I have to. So it's, of course, so it's, we have times 5. So it's 3 weeks. We have that many weeks time working days, which is 5 working days a week, and divided by 12. So we get approximately like 19 or 20 work days a month. So that's like in my payroll, it also says like how many days were working days, and it is actually usually like 19 or 21 or something like that. So maybe December is like a little bit less than June, but so that from this we can calculate what would be the cost per day, because we know now the monthly salary and we know how many days, because we are leaving weekends off because nobody's working on weekends. So we can get this from dividing the monthly salary divided by these working days. Then we know that when the specialist comes to work or like is doing whatever for 1 day, it costs us 109 euros if he's working for 1 day. So we can see here already that, you know, when the calibration is more than a 1 day, so the calibration already has to be more than what we are paying salary. So, but that's of course only just the one, and the same for the supervisor. So obviously, because his salary is bigger, we have to spend a little bit more per day. But he's of course spending less time on because he only has like 17.5 days. Okay, with the salary part, any questions?
I just have one question just
Yep.
to clarify. Maybe it was
Yeah.
like the vacations are accounted. How to express it? Are the vacations paid, or you're just like?
Okay, I understand what you mean. That we should take in Yeah, you know, I'm not like I think it's a valid point. In a way, that we would even should take the whole like the off days because you still have to pay, but I'm not really sure actually. We could just if we would take how much, so it would be like 10 euros per day. So it's maybe not that much of a change. But I understand. I get your point, and yes, you would still have to pay people, but I'm not really sure. I can ask. I'll ask. I know people who do finance. I will just ask for if we should take. It's a bit because we are still paying for. Like, should we? Now the question is, should we calculate into this calibration service that our worker is on holiday? I think this is just a little bit, I think that's where the question is. If we would do that, is that really, maybe it's not as correct if like we really want to get, because we can't, should we charge, in a way it's, should we charge the customer that when for the days that our worker is on holiday? It's a bit, I mean, I am puzzled. I actually don't know. Like it's a good question. I really didn't think about that because Ivo had these calculations and it seemed okay, but I will actually ask and we can discuss because it's a, you know. Yeah, you are paid, but the question is it okay in this kind of calculation to take into account? I think that's the question.
Yes. I would take it because it's still.
Yeah, but no.
The worker is not.
Yeah, but you see, the worker is doing a lot of other things too. So I'm not like, I will check it. I'm not 100% sure that this, because always we'll see when we enter the instrumentation and equipment also, this, how do you say, accounting sometimes is not always logical. Accountant stuff sometimes goes a little bit different than what is like in our logic. And this is what we are actually at the moment calculating, is how much we should ask like from our customers. And so it's a little bit like, because you will see that what we will add in the end also is like the profit margin, is like the overhead. We add these other costs also. But here we would, if we would really like to like stick to like a person like working and like, not like any extra stuff and like keep it in a way like clean, then, it's then I think it's maybe fair. But I will check like how would like an accountant point of view should be done. So maybe that would be like, maybe there is a difference there. Because I think what lies here is that we would really like to know how much it like costs, like what is the cost for like a calibration service. And if we take into account person being on a holiday, then, and if it has like 56 days off a year, maybe it's not really like fair enough. Then you should maybe take this into account when you are putting salary on or giving salary on a person, that maybe this is, you shouldn't charge your clients that. I think it's because it's, yeah. I think it's just to keep it like when we want to do calculations and when we want to know how much it costs to calibrate, then we would like that the vacation amount of vacation days wouldn't influence. So we are like pulling it aside, because if we would do that, then it would, you know, we would, I think it's just to keep it like clean. But I will ask and we'll see like how it's, because I know that these files have also been checked by like economy people. So it's like, it's not like, you know, so maybe there is, you will see from the instrument. Some things just accountant things can be sometimes a little bit different. So we'll just see, like, we want to know how much it costs when like a person is like working and there and not really worrying. So now what we have, the next is equipment. So that can also be a bit like tricky. So what we have to know is that, you know, our equipment has some kind of a price. So let's say this calibration equipment is 85,000 euros, including this value-added tax. And now what we have to know is that obviously we don't have to spend that money like every year. Then we have to know what is like time period that we can use this equipment. So what is like the lifetime of that equipment? And here we have put 20. So we know that this system works for 20 years. And we also know that it will be like utilized 100%. So that it's like all this 85 has to be paid off like in 20 years. And then it means that we would kind of like in our mind, we would have to set, usually it's like, of course, you know, it depends now on how you have bought this instrument, obviously, because maybe you are leasing this instrument, then you have to pay this every month. Or the other thing is that maybe you have to like, in a way, save this money for your next instrument. So then, you know, you kind of in your mind, you have to set it aside like a certain amount every month, every year, that you will, after 20 years, you can buy a new instrument. These kind of instruments are actually quite difficult to, you know, in accounting also is that when you buy an instrument, the new company has like a certain value, and the value is this 85,000, this instrument, but it gets like cheaper every year by the amount that it's like used up also. So yeah, so this is, it can be different. It's sometimes, and what is usually also done is actually that you put like a shorter time frame, and it's like, you know, with a car, maybe you have like a 5-year lease, you pay the car off, but after that you still have the car and it's still fine and you travel, you just don't have to pay it for anymore. So sometimes for instruments, it's also wiser to like take into account. But what we are interested at the moment is that when we are doing these calibration works, we would like to know that every time like our customers pays for a calibration service, like a certain amount of that goes like towards like this instrumentation that we have for this calibration, you know, because if we just take the working hours then of this person, then we will be in trouble. So that's why we can like calculate this depreciation cost per year that we know, and that's why it's like we know that all of this 85,000 we want to divide it between years. So then this would be 85,000 divided by 20, right? So that we know that approximately every year we have to have like about like 4,000 euros that we, you know, we have to get this amount from So it's always good to have this kind of calculation in, because, you know, and sometimes why it is also done faster, and you could put like 10 years, is because they can break faster, and then that you wouldn't run into the trouble. So this is where like the experience is good, when you know how long an instrument is working. So this is something you also should think for your also for your calculations for your homework, like if you buy it, like how we should take. Then we could also think like what would be the approximate maintenance cost. And of course, all of these calculations, we are completely leaving out all like inflation and all of that. So this just will make it even more complex. We are doing like a little bit simplistic here. Because obviously, if you got this instrument with 85,000, the next one in 20 years is not going to cost you 85,000. It will be more. But just, you know, not to make this our life too complex. We could maybe just maybe like 1,000. I mean, it depends on the instrument. And this is also when we just, and then it means that we have cost of equipment usage per year. Then we basically just have this depreciation cost per year, and we add this equipment. So this is our equipment cost, this 5,250 euros. So we think that this is something we should be okay with our. So now we have some other. So we have equipment and we have people. So what are some other? So I already wrote consumables, but what are some other costs that we might have in this calibration laboratory? Now we can think a little bit what we have, what we discussed in our when we talked about this variable and fixed costs. So what are some of the costs in a laboratory? Utilities is a good, but this is why we can't put this one here. We will have it in a different place. Is that it's really hard to calculate like what are maybe the utilities exactly for doing this calibration. So the rent and utilities we will actually use here is this overhead that we will just take like it's like a percentage, because we have like accountants and all this security and everything. We will take that together. But yes, the calibration standards but I think calibration standards are maybe kind of like consumables, but yeah. Well, in a way, like calibration standards and maybe also calibration itself, like together. Well, because we put only in time like the how to calibrate the setup and everything, but we didn't have any cost. So that was like how much people spend time on calibrating. But we probably need like calibration standards, calibration itself, and some other costs that relate to this calibration, like we can like peak here. So whatever relates to this calibration of the setup. So yeah, probably it depends, but standards are probably a good. Also, what else? And we also peek a little bit here on what are some of the activities. Yes, exactly. So we probably have some interlaboratory comparisons that we have to pay for. What else? Exactly, accreditation. Because accreditation fee also is it usually has two components, and one is like the general, and then also every method has like a calibration, accreditation service cost. So this humidity calibration, we have like a specific fee. What else? We have that in the overhead, yeah, because it's a little bit hard because you're probably, don't pay rent like in a laboratory, it's like per like method. Well, this is where we are different. We will go to the reagents when we talk about analysis. So in calibration, we don't really have any reagents. Or like if it is, it's either like this maybe consumables a little bit, like if maybe you have like a cleaning alcohol or something, but that's probably it. We will do all these columns and eluents and we will get into that. Anything else? So we have like training. It's also something, like when you are maybe like some traveling costs related to these trainings or like work groups or something that are related to this humidity specific like training. And then the last thing is all kind of like licenses and IT when you have some kind of software maybe to do the calibrations. And of course, there is some overlap that some of it may be like this overhead, but usually with like, you have like a specific like computer or like a software for your instrument. So we can put like IT, like something like that, maybe like a phone or something for, I don't know. This really is, we can basically, I don't just put these interlaboratory comparisons can be quite expensive. I have no, like, it's probably, everything is getting so expensive all the time. So I'm just like putting numbers that I kind of think are somewhere along the line. I don't think we have to worry like all exactly the details here. That's not really, you can figure out some of these things for your homework. But so this is like approximate numbers. So now we have so now we kind of know what the different costs are. And now we can now put all of those that's above here, kind of summarize here. So we had first the specialist time. Then what was the second biggest component? In addition to specialist, we had supervisor. Exactly. Then we had two other big groups was equipment and this other group, other, exactly. And this here how we calculate it was per year. So per year. So we can put here year. And we know that the specialist was working how many days? 5. Supervisor was working 17.5. Equipment, we know that was this 5,250 per year and 2,800 per year. Now we want to know the cost per unit. So, oh no, this was actually, this here is, sorry, this here is just one actually, because it is like one set of equipment and one other, because here we have cost per unit. So how much was the specialist time, specialist day cost was this 109. So this is, sorry, and then 150 for the, and now this is per year. Of course, these tables can be done differently also, but this is how this setup has been. Of course, you can like skip certain steps if you want, but per year equipment was 5,050, and per year the total is 280. And now we can calculate like the total costs per year for all of them, so that we know like how much. So it is times per unit, so that we know that our, so these are our costs, like about 15,000 for the specialist, 2,600 for the supervisor, equipment, and then the other. So now we kind of know that this is what we have when we are doing this 100 analysis. So this is like what we are like, why we are like trying. I think I've used hopefully all the formulas everywhere, because this is our, what we are. So this means that the total direct costs are, we have to sum all of these, right? So that we know exactly. So this is, and now this is this overhead. Like I said, that, like you said, these utilities, waste management, rent, accountant, some like overall bosses who are not like not really involved. So we kind of have to somehow take this into account. And this is called overhead. And this is actually quite common in universities, that when we, like here in a university, we are not paying rent for the university, like when we have an office or something. But when we do some kind of a service, so like in the testing center, or we do some development service for companies, then we pay like, I think 20 or 15, I'm not sure. We pay this to the university. So we don't get like 100% what we like invoice the client. And we like, so because university has to like pay the utilities and everything, like their accountant who's like taking care of everything, and like, all kind of lawyers or whatever, and rectors. So this is how some of the money, of course, some of the money for the university comes from like the government, but some of it also, like when we are doing services and we are using, for these services, we are using university things. And even if we might be using equipment that has been purchased like by the university, or rooms and lighting and everything. So that's why it's like we are not taking like one by one, everything, but just kind of have like this number that we know that this is the, and then we can have the cost with this together. And now this is like all that we are like, so it's like costs, like there's no profit here. But we remember we talked about that we probably would like to get some kind of a profit also, or like some kind of a buffer. And if we want like 20% of the profit, then of course we have to take this into account also. So like if it's like 20%, and that should be it, right? So we divide it by, or like, so now you see here is this value-added tax. I don't know how it is like in your countries, or but in Estonia, if you're doing like business to business, then you don't have to pay this value-added tax. You get it back. So if like a business is buying like an instrument from another business, this, and you will initially pay this 22%, but you will get it back from the government. So it's like business to business. But if you are as like a private person, you buy something, you are paying this 22%. So like if I buy a computer, like a laptop, I have to pay this 22%. If I have a business and I buy this computer, I will pay this 22, but I will get it back from in every month. I can do like this receipt, like accounting, whatever, and the taxation, like tax board or whatever, they will refund it to me. So if it's like business to business. So I don't know, but almost everybody in Estonia has a business. If you didn't know, I have one. It's because, and this is one of the reasons that you can then, if you're a busy person, and this is also other way that it's also possibility for you to not get paid like the salary, because you saw how much of the salary you pay away. When like my gross, as a company, I have to spend like 2,000 euros. So, and in the end, as a employee, you will get like 1,000. But if you are a company, then if you think in this way, then if a computer would cost 1,000 euros, then you see that you can use the same money. Like if it's inside a company, you can use this to buy this computer without paying like all the taxes. You pay for like because as a private, so it's actually very expensive to be a private person, because first from my salary, so university pays me salary. I have paid all the taxes. University paid the taxes. I pay the taxes, and then I pay the 22% for this computer. But now if you have a company, you will write an invoice to somebody who, let's say for 2,000 euros, you will get it, and then you get the 2,000 euros and you buy a computer and you will get the 20, like spend half of it on the computer and also get the 22% back. So you don't have to do all of this, like all this social and all of that taxes. It's a little bit of problem in Estonia, because some people are taking advantage of it. They are like having summer cottages and saying it's like their business, and but it's really not. But you get all of you build yourself a house and you say it's like a business, but everything you buy, furniture and everything, you get this 22%. So it's but the taxation office, they are keeping a very strict eye on it now more and more, because people are really in Estonia, there's called this word, it's called OÜtamine, which means you're just doing business, but it's so everybody's doing business. And this is one of the reasons to avoid all of these taxes. And it is, it's very easy to open a business in Estonia. It takes 15 minutes to start the business. Yeah, it's very easy. So this is one of the reasons. So yeah, that's why, as if you would sell this calibration service to somebody with a private person, not the company, you would have to charge this 0.22. And this summer, it will be 24. So that we have, I think it happens this summer in Estonia, that the tax, so all the food and everything we are like a small Switzerland here. Everything is very expensive. So this is, but the good thing about that everything is so expensive in Estonia is that when you travel, everything seems so cheap. When 15 years ago, it was, very different. When you traveled, all the Europe seemed very expensive, but not anymore. So now we have per year, but what we can also do now is that we can have now this like per calibration. So how much it costs because all of these costs took into account like all of the things that we did. But let me see, where do I get this dollar mark here? This one? No, never seem to find it. Where is this dollar? This one? Oh, yes. So we'll put the dollar so that we can change it. So now I put it like per 100. So what we can see now from here is that if we would want to sell this calibration service and also get like this 20% profit, it would be about 380 euros per calibration, which is actually like a very realistic estimation. Like if you would do that. So now if you think about just play a little bit around, we have a little bit time. So if we would have, so let's write this here, 300, where did you go? Let's write, so it was for 100 calibrations, it was 381 approximately euros. So now if we would do 50 calibrations, then we would have to actually ask already 530 euros. So it's half less. So it's quite like more expensive. So that's why it's very important that you know what is the approximate, like how many calibrations or analytical services you are planning to have, because otherwise you can be in quite some trouble. But when you see at, let's put like 150, let's see what happens then. Now this is only 330. So it's actually not much of a change from when this 380 went up like 170 to like when it's half less. But if it's 50 more, it's only like 50 euros less. Why is that? What is the main component, really, the cost in doing this calibration? The specialist time. So it doesn't matter, like you can have a lot. At one point, it's just you have to spend this this time on doing this calibration service. It just, so this is what's like tricky with these kind of we will start to see that when we are doing chemical analysis, it will be different. Remember, we talked about all like this automatization and everything, where adding more samples doesn't really add too much work. It's like your time. Of course, if you have sample preparation, but it can depend. But calibrating instruments is like very, very time consuming, because it's really like a person time. It's not like you just put it like in an instrument and it's doing, but you really have to like change it and do everything. So there is like in that sense, there is like a sweet spot that, you know, and also like a maximum that's actually, you know, so that's why you have to be very careful, like what is really like the minimum that you are expecting a year, that you know that you know, if you're like debating, is it like gonna be 80 or 100, then it already can have, you should already ask, you know, maybe that's not, but still like 30 euros more. And then if it's even less, then you really have to be very, very careful there, that if you have any other like unexpected costs, But yeah, for like a regular person, a calibration would cost like 466 euros. So that's quite expensive. But that's why these analysis and these kind of services are expensive. Any service that has a person, and this is like something that that we have to like think about, when we go to the hairdresser, or what kind of services we are paying. That if a person is in contact with us for like 1 hour, and then you have to think like, but she's only cutting like my hair for 1 hour, and I mean everything has to pay from that, like the salary, the rent, the chemical, like everything. So sometimes it's that's why I think at the beginning I didn't like, I mean, when I was young I had no idea, but when you like start to think about that, and I think for the analytical services it's also good to understand why some services are, and why some analyses are more expensive than the others. Next week we will start with the analytical services. That file is also up, and this we will not finish in 1 day. We will definitely do that in 2 days, because there's more like all kind of solvents, diluents. There's a lot more to consider, but the start is the same. That's it. If you don't have any questions, so this file, you can say, can you see like the filled file now when you click on the link? Oh, perfect. That worked. A question? Yep.
In the activities, when we take this actually stands for is the working day where we take 7 or 24 hours?
Working day. That's why I took this 10 divided by 8. So it's like if it's 10 hours, but we know that it's 8 hours is 1 working day. Yep. Yeah. And so that's the difference with like instruments also, that you can run for 24 hours, like LCMS can run 24 hours, but this Martin Vilbaste wants to go home at 5 o'clock. So yeah, so this we have taken into account here. Should be okay. I will ask about this, how we should, like, should we take these vacation days? I know some people who can answer this, so I'll ask. It probably doesn't make it too much of a change, but it's a valid point, like how much we should consider these kind of, yeah, it's one thing if it's not mandatory, like benefits, but this is not really a benefit because 4 weeks is mandatory vacation for. So I would say that if it's really, let's say a professor has 56 days, then the question is like, maybe then it's not correct to have all 56 days because we just say that professors have more, but this is not mandatory because the regulations are law is 28 days by the law. So that the university has given this privilege for the professors is, I mean, what I'm saying, we have researchers have 42 and teachers, so that's not too bad either. But I will ask. I think it's a good question. Nothing else then? Yep.
I find curious a bit, like, in the forward location into account the Christmas holiday?
No. No. 4 weeks is like 20, actually it's like 28 days is like this, that in every work contract you have to have. And it's mandatory that 2 weeks are taken together. So at least one of your vacation has to be like 14 days in a row. So this is also in law, that you can't take like 1 week and then 1 week. Yeah. So, but the rest of it you can then decide.